All right, so I've been receiving lots of questions on LSB. I want to just quickly, I know I have one or two videos already on YouTube here explaining LSB, but I guess I'll just have to explain it again. It's pretty simple. LSB is just breaking market structure. And if you understand how we trade the institutional order flow on H4, when we say we have a breaker, that's actually an LSB. So LSB is actually a breaker on 15 minutes. And I'll explain again. Usually, when we say we have an uptrend, we would want to see consecutive higher highs. Then we say we have an uptrend. Until we see a consecutive higher high, we wouldn't say we have an uptrend. We need to see consecutive higher highs to say we have an uptrend. To put it mildly, we actually need to see this to say we have an uptrend, right? A low, a high, a lower low, a lower high, to say we have an uptrend, right? If this doesn't happen, we basically don't have an uptrend. So when we have an uptrend, we anticipate when price is coming down, we will be anticipating that to make a U-turn somewhere between 3 and 4, right? For it to be an uptrend, this low should be a lower low, or a higher low, I beg your pardon. You shouldn't take out 4. So invariably, I should expect a U-turn anywhere from 3 to 4 for us to have the ride up. However, if price comes back and breaks beneath 4, I can now say I have a break in market structure because the structure of higher highs, consecutive higher highs, and higher lows has been broken. This break in market structure is what we call the last step broken. So you can either call it LSB, BMS, break in market structure, whatever name you want to call. We then anticipate a retest of this level, right? So now we'll be anticipating a retest of 4 to 5. We'll be anticipating a retest from 4 to 5. So price can actually make a U-turn anywhere between 4 to 5, and then we anticipate it creating lower lows thereafter, right? The danger usually is in trading order flow on the H4 is B can go all the way to 5 here, which will be trading from source, right? So today in the Telegram group, somebody mentioned, I only trade from source, right? And if that is your trade plan, perfect, right? We have some people who will take a trade off the breaker, right, and move. Now, how can I, and the question, how did LSB come into the picture, right? How do we mitigate against entering too early? Just like with trading a trend, when we have, let me use this for instance, when you have a rise, a drop, this is not, you can't say this is an uptrend or a downtrend. You can't, right? You can only say this is an uptrend when you see another wave taking out this, right? While it is still at this level, you don't have a trend yet because it could invariably form an M and come down. You only have an uptrend if price breaks above, then you have an uptrend, right? And even at this point, you still could have a turtle soup and an M, right? You could have something like this. So usually, this could be a turtle soup formation for a sell. You can't win it all. But the idea is that if price breaks this point higher, then you would be anticipating a drop down, then you now buy, right? So I've explained two things here. I'll quickly put them together so I don't confuse you guys. So when we're analyzing this, I mentioned something like turtle soup, right? So if you have a turtle soup it means that this will continue to drop down. So why don't we jump in for a sell or for a buy immediately at this point off the 4 hours? If we're trading this on the 4 hours, we wouldn't jump in for a buy. We'll wait for an LSB to the upside, because this will be, when it's coming down, it will be giving us lower lows, lower high on its retest back to this level. We will now wait for it to break the last step to the upside, indicating willingness to go up. It doesn't always go up all of the time. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're just lying to you, plain lie, right? Many liars online. So take it from me, you would lose some time. But if you don't trade any other thing and you trade only LSB, and you have the time, of course, to sit down and trade LSB with your other blocks, you would make massive you make massive progress in your trading. Of course, I should state here, I'm not a financial expert, I'm not a guru, I'm just a forex trader sharing my thoughts here, right? So we have higher highs, and all of a sudden you have A taking out 4. You'll be anticipating that A pushes back, giving you something around this point, right? For you to anticipate an opportunity to sell. All right, sorry. So you'll be waiting for a break in market structure to the downside after this point has been broken several times. Price could break this point and just move back up, and that will be forming a turtle soup formation for the top for the buy, right? And that is why on the 15 minutes or the 30 minutes or the 1 hour, depending on what time frame you're most comfortable with, I say that wait for a full body close. It could close with a wick. It could wick in and move up, right? That is still breaking market structure. Even if the wick comes below 4, it is still breaking market structure. But using this pattern, the way I trade it, I want to see a candle close beneath that level, then a retest and sell. Now, if you trade off the 15 minutes, you could have some fake outs where the break in market structure, right, fails and price continues to buy. So for at that level, I usually advise new traders to have TDI on their chart, right? So if your break-in market structure coincides with um, a shark fin or divergence here, for which case you have maybe price making higher high and your TDI making lower lows, that might be a reason to want to sell. If you could also have a shark fin, and your shark fin can actually occur at 0.3 or 5, not necessarily at 0.5. It can occur at zero point 0.3 or 0.5. You have a shark fin at 0.3, it's telling you I'm getting ready. It might make one more push up, take out liquidity, then drop, right? So your shark fin should be at 0.3 or 5 if you want to use the TDI. Now, if you are confused with institutional order flow, and I don't say that the institutional order flow is the best strategy in the market, I'm just saying it might be easier for some of you to understand. If you understand order blocks, you could trade LSB with order blocks alone. The idea here for LSB is that you don't try to catch the reversal from the peaks. It takes upwards of 10 million US dollars for price to move by 1 pip. How much do you have in your trading account? Right? So you don't want to be the one forcing the market to make its move. You want to wait for price to actually make its move. If you trade fibs, even if it is fibs you trade, you actually wait for price to rally. Then you would be, in a case where it is going up, you wait for it to rally to the upside. Then you are now waiting for it to come back down into OTE for you to buy. But you first wait for them to make the move. All right, so okay, so back here now, let's see how we can use this just trading LSB on with other block. Or before then, maybe we should look at what LSB means. Um, maybe let's look for 15 minutes. Let's go down to 15 minutes and see what I mean by LSB on 15 minutes. Okay. So let's say we want to go long, right? We want to buy. Um, we can see that this is the order block or the bullish candle responsible for this drop, right? Price didn't come back to it. We have another bullish candle here together with the wick to the downside, responsible for this lower low here, right? And price breaks through it. Upon a retest of this level using LSB, we would be biased with our stop loss beneath this level. Depending on your broker, depending on the conditions under which you entered, right? Usually to be spread times 2. It's possible that when price comes to this point, the spread will widen and it will take you out, right? If that is the case, fine and simple. You lost the trade. You look for another opportunity, right? You look for another opportunity, as simple as that. If you add this together with kill zones and blah blah blah, or with, like in this case, I'm not looking at shark fin or divergence. I'm just explaining LSB. Of course, if you add your shark fin, if your trade plan says you have to see a shark fin or divergence, you might or might not have gotten an entry here. But let's take LSB as it is. Price broke above. Upon a retest, you're looking for reasons to buy, and you would have bought this trade and it would have stopped you out. Plain and simple. Now, it stopped you out simply because it created a lower low. What was the um, bullish candle response for that low? It happens to be that point. Remember, you have devised your um, direction, your bias from a different time frame, right? A higher time frame. So now you have this low, price traded to it, drop back down, and now you can see price has broken above your order block. You would now be waiting for a retest or a fill of fair value or whatever reason you want to go long. Obviously, if you had risked 1 hour here, you would have recovered your 1 hour and had one more hour in profit, because what price did was that when price changed the bias to the upside, now you have this level here as your order block responsible for the buy. We have this level here responsible for the order block responsible for buy. Price came back into it, didn't break it, shifted up to this order block. Price has made a higher high and price had not broken this point. You will only be thinking of getting out of your trade upon a creation of a lower low. As it is, price is still bullish using LSB alone, right? Using LSB alone. Now, so let's check another pair again and see, or let's maybe scroll around again and see other things that could happen. Let's see a scenario for a sell. And in that case, we'll have to see that price had been buying, and all of a sudden, we see an opportunity to sell. Okay, so let's use this. Might not be a perfect example, but let's just use this. So price had been going upwards, and you were looking for an opportunity to sell, right? This was the bearish candle responsible for this push up. This was the last bearish candle responsible for that high. So you have this last bearish candle responsible for this high, gave you your M formation and dropped. right? This candle closed underneath this point. This is your retest, and this is another retest for the sell, right? For the sell. Notice how when you were coming down, the last bullish candle responsible for this low was not taken out. The last bullish candle responsible for this low wasn't taken out. The last bullish candle responsible for this low wasn't taken out. The last bullish candle responsible for this low wasn't taken out. The last bullish candle responsible for this low wasn't taken out. When price came here and took out this bullish candle here, you are getting out of your trade, right? Last bullish candle responsible for that high, you could get out for your trade if that is your trade plan. I'm just explaining how LSB helps you. Now notice that for this case, you would have had a short trade at this point with your stop loss here and your take profit all the way here, right? So this would have given you a risk reward of 2.2, risking 142. Of course, your trade plan should be supreme. If your trade plan is that I'll get out once I get 2R or 1.4R, so be it. You don't have to ride the whole wave down if your trade plan says otherwise. If your trade plan says otherwise, I'm not a fan for I just made 200 pips, I just made 300 pips. All of that does not matter. What matters is your trade plan. Are you making profit? Are you making profit or not? You know, that's what matters at the end of the day. Right, so let's look at how we trade this. Apart from LSB, the other thing I want to bring out is order blocks alone. Say you want to trade just order blocks, not minding institutional order flow or whatever. You just want to trade order blocks, right? And that could be modified to mean supply and demand, depending on how you want to call it. So many names for those things in the market, right? Okay, I think we have G card here. Let's go to the daily and see. So let's say you are in a daily time frame and you're looking for, sorry, 1 minute here. All right, so let's say you just trade order blocks, right? And I won't define order blocks here, but take this region, for instance. Price was bullish, then you suddenly saw an engulfer, right? You saw this engulfing candle creating an order block, telling you that price has a willingness to want to drop, right? If you trade ICT, you mark out your threshold and expect that price will make a U-turn from there. Now, what I see is several people spending so much of their time on 15 minutes, and lately I see some people posting 1 minute. That is dangerous. The higher time frame takes preeminence over the lower time frame. You should let that ring in your mind, right? Maybe I should state this here. When you have on the higher time frame price making, say price has broken structure and is now going high, that's what you have on the higher time frame. Structure was broken here, price made a retest and is on its way up. When you stay on the lower time frame and you look at 4 to 5, what you would be seeing is a downtrend. In fact, what you'll be seeing on a lower time frame, if you look at 4 to 5, will be something that looks like this. It will still respect structure, but it's making lower lows. And you would actually think you're in a downtrend. you should remember that if price trades into an order block of a higher time frame, even if it's going to break it through or violate the order block, you should anticipate some reaction. For GBP pairs, it could be as much as 150 pips. You're talking about daily time frame here, right? It could be one full ADR, right? Then it comes back the following day and takes it out, or 2 days later, in fact, sometimes. In fact, and that would be like a reset, for those of you who trade BTMM, it could be a form of a reset, and then it drops back and violate it. But on a daily time frame, you should expect price to respect a D1 order block, at least upon the first, second, fourth, or second, even sometimes the third retest of another block. So I see many people spending time on 5 minutes, on 15 minutes, and you're like, I'm trading what I see. What you see on 15 minutes might be a mirage, except if you are happy. If your trade plan is that way, of course, I'm not against it. You can trade whatever your trade plan is, right? But if you want to follow high probability trade, you want to buy where the banks had bought before, and you can easily spot that on the higher time frame. Of course, you could now go down to 15 minutes to even, or 5 minutes to even look for LSB. But now you have a bias, you have a global picture of what to expect. So in this case, we have this bearish candle engulfing this bullish candle, giving us a reason to think that price may want to come down, giving us reason to think that price may want to come down. So on this day here, which happens to be the 15th, price traded back into this other block. Price traded back the bullish candle into the other block, and sometime around 16th, it began its descent down, right? It began to come down. So let's look at what we could have done on the 15th or 16th that might have helped us to catch this drop. So I'll take this down to 15th, go down to 15 minutes. All right, so here we are on the 15th, right? Price was still making higher highs. We would not consider the Asian box, these two lines, the two vertical lines, 12 and 13 here, delineate the Asian box. So here we are. So at the open of New York, right, of London, I beg your pardon, price rallied. If your strategy helps you to catch this buy, so be it. In Simplypips, we trade in line with the trend. And if you're going against the trend, it should be that you are in a higher time frame order block. And those rules are so simple, right? You could do any other thing, but that's how we see the market. Every other strategy is correct. If you've watched the previous video I made yesterday, every strategy is correct. Every strategy is a story. It's correct. It just follow the rules. So you can't mix the rules of one strategy, the rules of the other one, the rules, you get confused. Right. So here we have on the 15th, this was the bullish retest. So the whole of 15, we had that bullish retest to the order block on the H4, on the daily, right? So this was the retest of the order block. We would be looking for reasons to sell. We would be looking for reasons to sell after a retest of that order block. So now on the 15th, we would gladly mark out this bearish candle with the wick to the lower end. Remember, we will mark up bearish candle with the wick to the lower end. As the spot price has to come back and break this level for us to sell. And as you can see clearly, price retested the order block. Let me go back to daily. If I go back to daily, I'll put a line on the topmost part of the order block and put another line on the lower part of the order block. Let's see if it will make any sense. I'll go down to the 15 minutes. Right, so back on the 15th. So notice price traded into through the lower part of the order block into the uppermost part of the order block. That's the red line up there, right? So this was a retest. Based on this retest, this was the last bearish candle responsible for that high, creating the retest. We will be waiting for price to come back and break this structure. So invariably, what we had is this, right? So we've been having this. Then we have a retest. We had this push to the upside. We would be waiting for price to come and create a low, for which we would now have a reason to want to sell upon a retest. Now, I had somebody ask, would it always retest? The answer is no. If your trade plan is to wait for a retest, then sometimes it will not retest, it will go away and you miss the trade. You see, but there's a difference between missing a trade and losing a trade. If you miss a trade, you were not filled. If you lose a trade, you were filled and you lost. Which would you prefer? Right, so on the 15th, there will be no entry. Now, several other people trading some other strategies will tell you GU is bullish. It is rising 100 something pips, target smashed, whatever they are saying. If you want to continue to listen to what others say and not pick a strategy and stick to it, then trading might not just be for you. Imagine, well, let me not give that example. Let's move on. So the next day, of course, these two horizontal vertical lines are Asian session, so we're not involved. And 1 hour before New York, and what do we see? This is the bearish candle responsible, right? Bearish candle responsible for that high. Price came back, retested it, did not take it out. It gave us the bearish candle response for this high. Price came back, tested it, didn't take it out, gave us this high. Then we had a new high up here. And this was the bearish candle responsible for that high. Price came, traded through it, but didn't close. Remember, I said that at the beginning. For 15 minutes, I want to see a close. On the H4, just a wick above a candle, I'll consider that as breaking market structure on the H4, because that small wick, if for a GBP related pair, can be 50 pips. But on 15 minutes, I want to see a close, a body close. So price traded, gave us a new high here, but came back, retested, and pushed back up. We didn't have any new high until this point. And what was the bearish candle responsible for that new high? It happens to be this. Price traded, came back, retested it, tested it twice, tested it once, twice, thrice, 4 times. By the 5th time of retest, it pushed up. But this time it gave us this candle here with the wick to the downside, right? A wick to the downside. If you understand the candlestick anatomy, this was responsible for this high, right? So price came and broke this low, right? This massive bearish candle didn't break this low. It didn't. And if you trade on 1 minute, this massive bearish candle will look like G card is melting. Men and brethren, it's just 21 pips. If you had done the same thing here, which is equivalent to another 21 pips or thereabout, yeah, even more, 25 pips, and you sold, you come and flash your result that I killed G card for what? How many pips? Right? And what is what was your stop loss when you took this trade? It has to be, the issue is not winning a trade once. It's not winning the battle, it's winning the war. It's having something that is, you can repeat over, duplicatable, repeat over and over and over again. You make some losses, you make more wins, right? But you want to repeat over and over and over. And that is why I said, if you've gotten to a point where Forex trading is not boring, because you seem to repeat the same thing over and over again, then you still have some work to do. It means you don't have a trade plan yet. And I accept sometimes one of my mentors took about 7 years before he narrowed down to a trade plan. So it's okay, but I think it would be wise if you pick one, work with it for like 4, 5, 6 months. You know the nitty-gritty of that one before shifting to something else, right? You don't just change strategies every month, every week. Everybody on Instagram, Telegram, or YouTube will tell you the strategy is the best. You just have to pick one and stick to it. So here we are, price created a new high. Came back, this candle doesn't look like a close, this candle doesn't look like a close, this is a close, right? So here we have a close. Everything here is a retest, and down we go, down we go. So we'll be entering from here. Our stop loss will spread times 2, right? So let's say we're having a stop loss of, let's even say 40 pips, right? But actually it should be 30 something pips. Notice also we have a quarter point there, 5 and zeros, 200. I started introducing that the last webinar, right? I'll talk more about it maybe sometime next month. Of course, this month is ended, right? The 50s and the zeros. So price traded. If you trade the way I do, this will be, let's say, 40 pips stop loss. And that means my TP will be an approximate 80 pips. Then that will be 2R. So if I'm risking 1%, I would have made 2%. And here we are already at this point, you are 80 pips in, right? You are 80 pips in, and you're done for your first entry. If you have other entries, now it's time to break even. If you twin trade like I do, you break even after hitting your first take profit, which is 2R. I'll be giving Prof the opportunity to explain all of this, because there is a psychology, there is a theory around your R, the number of the size of your take profit is inversely proportional to your win rate. If your take profit is always 2R, you might lose more trades than someone whose take profit is 1.5R, because many times price may not give you 2R before reversing. So you see some people trying to take something out of the market as soon as possible, and they do 1.5R, then they break even the remainder, so that if price comes back, at least they have 1.5, especially if price makes a U-turn around 1.6 or 1.7R, and it does that often, right? You have to note that price ranges more time than it trends. So here we have push up and push down. Now, but it's not the win that is the issue. It's the power of LSB. And so let's look at it. So we have this candle here, the bullish candle here responds for this drop. So for the purpose of this illustration, let's use a different color for this. Right, so we have this bullish candle responsible for this drop. Price traded back into the bullish candle and then dropped, now giving us this same formation, right? Giving us that same formation for a drop. So now be expecting price to trade back into this level, not take it out and then give us a drop. Price trades back into this level, not take it out, give us a drop. There are times that price will trade weak through and come back and close, right? Then oscillates for a while, then drop. We only get out in that instance when we see divergence, then we get out. Doesn't mean that divergence will always make it pull out, but high probability. No need to take chances. So here we have the bullish candle response for this drop. Then we have this bullish candle here responsible for this lower low here, right? Price trades into that bullish candle and drops further. Now we have this bullish candle here. responsible for this low. Price trades into that bullish candle and gives us even a lower low. Now we have this bullish candle, this look like a bullish hammer, right? Responsible for this low. Price trades into the threshold and dropped even further, then gives us another bullish candle. Here, remember to always take the wick of the candle to the right, right? This bullish candle, the wick closed higher, went higher. You want to consider that wick because they may just wick into it. Price traded into that bullish candle and even dropped lower, giving us a lower low here. We take this bullish candle here, responsible for that drop. Price didn't trade into it, but price even dropped lower. Then you have this bullish candle responsible for this lower low here. Price trade into it and drops. You have the smaller bullish candle there responsible for this low. Price trade into it. 1, 2, 3, didn't break it, dropped further all through the Asian session. Repeat that. It kept respecting. It kept respecting. And somewhere around here, we had this bullish candle responsible for this low. Price trade into it, dropped. Price trade into it, dropped further. Gave us this bullish candle with a wick to the upside, responsible for this low. Price trades dropped even further, and price now gave us this bullish candle responsible for this low. And here we have a break. Now, if we were monitoring price manually, that will be our exit. Now you'll be looking at price from this point entry. You had 40 pips SL, and you got out upon the close of this candle, and that is about another, let's say 140 pips or thereabout. That is 1:4 or thereabout, right? R, sweet, if you are able to hold it that long. What I see people do is jump out when they see this retracement. If you understand your order block, you mark it up and wait for price to trade into it. Yes, so Prof is doing a lot of wonderful things. We might have some modification to help us. I believe in adding 1 or 2 things to your strategy, but you should have a base strategy that you don't change all of the time. So here we have that LSB. Where did we derive this sell from the daily time frame? You could do this also on the H4. In fact, that is what, when you look at institutional order flow, this is what institutional order flow is all about. Just that this time we look at it from the H4. You could do this over and over alone. Just do this alone and you are okay. See this. This is a bearish trend, right? Price came into this point and gave us something that look okay. Let's give us something that looks like an order block. Even though this was the last bearish candle, bullish candle, I beg your pardon, responsible for this drop. If you've been following us, you would know that this candle is within the spread of this bigger candle. So we want to pick this bigger candle as our order block, right? This bigger bullish candle happened to be the order block responsible for this drop. So everything here was consolidation inside the bullish order block. Notice how many times price, after price created the order block, price created the order block here, right? So price created the order block at this low. Notice how many times price traded into it, right, and dropped. So every time price traded into this order block, we would have been looking for a sell, right? Could we have been faked out once or twice? Yes. Would we finally catch a sell that would have taken us down this way? Yes. Would we have some points where we would lose because price will just pierce through after we've gone in? And the answer is still yes. Right. So I don't know where people have this idea that I can trade for a whole year and not have a losing trade. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't know. If it's possible, please, I'll just reach out to me. I really want to learn that. can mortgage my house and everything and just trade that strategy. So as it is, price traded into this order block, starting from, which day was that? Let's see. 28, yeah, on the 28th, it dipped into that pullback a little. So we're going to go to 28 now of May and see if we could find an entry at that point. So 28th of May, 15 minutes. So here we are on the 28th of May. Am I getting this right? This is the order block. So let's make this thing. Yeah. This is the order block. Price traded into it on the 28th of May. Yeah, 28th of May. So 15 minutes, 28th of May. Price traded into the order block here. So price traded into the order block exactly here, right? When it traded into the order block, we would be looking for reasons to sell. But as you can see, this happened at the end of New York. If we had not caught a buy here for any reason, then we have no reason entering a trade around this time, because it will consolidate by the theory. Remember, every strategy is a story. By theory, we expect to consolidate during the Asian session. Now, here we are in London, right? So price traded into the order block responsible for the high, order block responsible for the high. And then we have this high, the last bearish candle responsible for that high happened to be this. Right, so let's count how many pips is that candle. Yeah, 10 pips. Then we had this break, massive break. We would be waiting for a retest. In this case, price came, dropped off. If you didn't get a retest, it's as good as let it be, right? Then price came back later on, gave you a retest. Let's say you didn't close out your sell limit. Price came back, gave a retest. Now your entry would have been at this point, stop loss 20 pips or 22 pips. It took you out. You've lost 1 hour. Sorry for your loss. Price pushed back. Remember, I'm not using TDI. If I'm using TDI, there should be no reason why I should have taken this trade here. But I understand some people don't use TDI, just LSB, fine. If you use TDI, fine. If you're using TDI, here you see your shark fin. You can see your shark fin right about here. And so you're interested in going in for this trade. Now, this is the last bearish candle responsible for this high. Last bearish candle responsible for that high. You are now looking to go in for a sell upon a break of that candle. So price broke, gave you a retest. Your stop loss, unfortunately, for this trade will be so wide. That will be 100 and something. And my trade plan, for instance, wouldn't allow me to take that. But then it danced off, and of course, dropped. Right, so if that was my entry, it dropped, gave 90 something, I still wouldn't have hit my first arm, right? So let's say you're in a trade like this and it keeps dancing, and it dances all through into the next day, in fact, the next week, I guess, then dropped. You could hold your trade if you want, keeps dropping, but you wouldn't want to get out until you see divergence or you see a break in market structure, which happened here, right? So this might be a very good reason for you to want to get out of the trade. Would you have made 2R? No. Would you make some profit? Most likely, right? So that's the concept of LSB. Now, all of these are retests of that order block. Every time price made a push to that order block, it gives you a reason to want to sell at LSB. right? Gives you a reason you want to sell at LSB. If you use TDI as a confirmation for your trades, right, then this order block response for this push was never taken and you have a shark fin, so you will not have been in the trade. What TDI does, it helps you filter out the fake moves, right? So price traded, didn't take out this block, went up, never came back to take it, so you wouldn't have been in a sell, right? Now here, your Asian session, so we won't bother about this. Here, look at the shark fin, and we have this point. Now this is the lowest point with the wick to the downside, response for this high. Price broke it, gave you a retest and sell. So you can see the use of TDI. Now, I don't care what any other person says. This is what I use for now. If there's a way I can trade without having anything on my chart, maybe I would love it, right? I know several powerful traders who trade with indicators, so I'm not against it. And there is this hype over people who trade naked chart are better than indicators. It's all a lie. It's all a fad. And people say that bankers will trade the way bankers trade. It's all stories. Steve Monroe will tell you he learned his from a banker too, and has a lot of moving averages and TDI. So you have you ever been to the, where bankers trade? They use indicators too, right? Maybe not the type of indicators we use. So you go to YouTube and Instagram, you see several things. And after doing that several times, here's my conclusion. My conclusion may be wrong, and you may not agree with me. Find one strategy. Back test, forward test. If it works, stick to it, and ride on. Right? So this would have given you shark fin here, stop loss, 50 something pips will spread. Once you have 100 and something here, you are 2R in already. And all this time, LSB was respected, right? Structure was respected. Your 2R is there, first trade out, break even the second one. When price came back and broke this level, right, you would be getting out of your trade somewhere around here. You might have missed some, but the point is that you've closed one already. You've closed one of your trades already, right? And of course, I can't explain everything in one Zoom. If you go down, and it's possible that this level here was an order block on the H4 or on the daily. So if you price trades from one order block into another order block, you want to take out your profits. So that's all I can give for today. So those of you asking about LSB, here you have the video. You could trade LSB alone with other blocks, LSB and other blocks alone. If you know how to code, of course, you can reach out to me. Let's see how I can put hands together and get some things automated for the benefit of all. Have a wonderful week as we trade. Hopefully, the markets will go with us. Enjoy.